Hello and welcome to Take 6. I am streaming executive producer Thomas Mates, filling in for Julie Broughton. She is out on assignment. Today we are going to be taking a look at the New Glenn launch from overnight. News 6 reporter Mark Lehman was there all night long, making sure this rocket finally went up, and it did. We'll take you to that rocket launch from overnight coming up in just a few minutes. We'll also be taking a look at the contest that insiders can look forward to this month. If you're not a News 6 insider, you should be. It's a great opportunity to win some cool stuff and get some great content, but you have to sign up for it. It's all free. Just go to clickorlando.com/insiders. On top of all that, we're going to be speaking with News 6 investigator Lewis Bolden. He is talking with a widow of a Melbourne firefighter who is now in a fight to try and receive his death benefits after he passed away from cancer. It's been an ongoing fight for her for some time now. We'll get the latest with Lewis coming up in just a moment. But before we get to all of that, we have to talk to News 6 digital meteorologist David Nazario. Hold on one second, David, I'll pull you in. I had the wrong controls up. Here we go. There you are.
No worries.
David,
how are we doing?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Doing all right. Truthfully, about to yank some of my hair out. I can feel the gray hairs popping. I just got a haircut not too long ago, but I can feel them.
Yeah.
Feel them deciphering some of this model data that we've got going on.
It's going to be a roller coaster over the next few days. We were talking about it a little bit before, and, it's a little up and down, and there's some uncertainty there because, the models just don't want to agree. Explain all that for us, please.
Happy to do so. Thank you so much, Thomas. So with that being said, let's move on over to the next big thing. This is going to be our weather headlines. I'm going to take you through a bit of a synopsis, folks. Over the next couple days, this week, what's left of this week, clouds outside are going to linger with some spotty rainfall coming in off the Gulf of Mexico thanks to a frontal line that's trying to sink its way into our neighborhood more and more as we approach Friday, and then eventually through the weekend, that Arctic air is going to finally arrive and chill us out once again. You can see there for the weekend, the rain chances will be climbing, and some thunderstorms are possible. Then into next week, I've changed the headline completely to something is coming. Something is coming down the pike, and it seems like we could have some sporty weather associated with it, or perhaps nothing at all. And I'll go ahead and break down some of that information for you right now. But first, let's get over to our handy-dandy water vapor shot. I just want to take you through what's happening out there. If you look over the southeast United States, kind of knocking on our door right now here in central Florida, you can see that little batch of brown, yellow, mustardy colors digging in to the Florida Peninsula. That is our trough and small batch of cold air. And then up over the north, you can see that enormous big blue blob, kind of like a wing or a feather, is what it looks like on satellite through Montana and the Dakotas. That is the nose of the next dive bomb of Arctic air that's going to plunge across the plains and make its way as far south as central Florida, if not even South Florida and beyond. So that's going to be very interesting to watch. That's something we've been honing in on for the last couple of days now, and the models are struggling big time with it. Here's a look at our live radar right now. We're zoomed out because you can see just behind that radar banner, if you look closely, we do have a lot of lake effect snow going on up over the Great Lakes, an indication that that cold air is still coming down, with some of those light snow returns making it as far south as the Carolinas. And then if you turn our attention to central Florida, that is going to be the song and dance for the next couple of days. I'll go ahead and pause the radar loop and take you in for a closer look so we can get a better feel for this. We have that persistent onshore flow coming in off the Gulf of Mexico, moving towards the west, which is not something we're very familiar with. We have been more familiar with these kind of onshore rain bands moving in out of the east. Well, we have a different pattern overhead now, so that's all coming in out of the west. And then as Thomas alluded to at the start of the briefing, this is going to rapidly transition back to the east before we get that dose of Arctic air coming down. And yes, to tell you the truth, guys, I'm just having fun with my Telestrator tool right now, just trying to take a little bit of the edge off, looking at all these computer models. First things first, though, we are confident we are going to get into a freeze. There's that trough right there over the eastern half of the country, bringing the cold temps in for us. Right now, it should still feel anywhere between 55 to 58 degrees outside when you step out the door this morning, or I should say this afternoon, as you head out for a lunch break, a quick afternoon workout, or if you're hitting the road early today to get on home before the rush begins. And then here we go. Look through Friday into Saturday, and then eventually Sunday, we have a massive dose of that Arctic air coming on down. And you can see the models are indicating it could make it as far south as Florida. We are definitely going to cool down from this, but the kicker here that I've been watching closely, and I've been just blowing my brain cells out of the water, deciphering what is going on with these computer models in terms of how far south the cold air goes, how the jet stream reacts to this deep plunge of cold air, what the warm waters of the Gulf of Mexico do to that cold air as it begins to change and modify. And then the energy out to the west over Southern California as it continues to move off towards the east, how it begins to interact with this cold air mass and could possibly spawn in a pretty good bout of wintry weather, not only for us here in Florida, but especially for our northern Floridians near Jacksonville, Tallahassee, and further into the Panhandle. Some of our current model iterations suggest we could get some freezing rain, if not ice, up in the northern portions of Florida. But that is still very much so up in the air, and we're going to be working feverishly to dial that in. One thing we do know for certain, though, if I switch this over to our in-house Barron radar, or future radar, I should say, and I'll zoom you in, this is what we have going on for the day today. And then as we move through the weekend, this is Saturday, you can see the approach of that front as we go through the lunch hour. A lot of our northern Floridians being buffeted by that onshore flow out of the Gulf, being driven in by that cold boundary. And then notice how as we go through Saturday afternoon, a little bit of enhancement over the waters of the Gulf of Mexico thanks to the warm air surging in from the south and that cold air coming down out of the Great Plains, out of Dixie Alley. You can see the light shading here and the blue arrows coming in off of Mississippi and Alabama, helping to stoke the flames of the leading edge of that cold air. So we'll definitely have to keep an eye on this, see if there is a potential for some isolated thunderstorm. If not, maybe even some moderate level activity, gusty winds, and some straight line winds with these bands as they move through, just because this dose of Arctic air packs so much of a punch. When you have that much mass literally moving to the south, it can do things to your atmosphere that you may not quite be expecting, because it's not the classic 90 degrees, 100 plus humidity outside. We can still get some enhanced weather activity. And because of that, if you look at the 7-day forecast here as we get ready to wrap up, it is busier than I've seen it in a long time. You can see for the day today, that light onshore flow keeping us at about a 20% chance of rainfall. Clouds will be lingering, as mentioned during the headlines, before we get a bit of a reprieve on Friday. Saturday and especially Sunday seems to be the bulk of that first main event. And then we're going to be watching very closely as to whether or not we just get some rain from the influence in the Gulf, or possibly a heavy rain / even a thunderstorm event here in Central Florida, pending if the models want to finally get their act together. Thomas, it literally looks like an all or nothing type scenario, just like it was with Sarah at the end of the hurricane season. So go figure, right?
Yes. Well, fortunately, we're not quite in that,
No.
do or die sort of situation. But, I know some rain would be good. Too much rain would be bad. So
Exactly.
hopefully we'll land somewhere right in the middle there, and we can get people a little bit more of a definitive answer in the next day or two as these models kind of get their act together.
Yep, you got it. That's exactly what we're going to be doing both here on Take 6 and behind the scenes. We'll be crunching numbers, crunching data as we go through today, tomorrow, and through your weekend. So hopefully we'll have the information you need to get you prepared not only for the possible wet conditions, but the temperature drop that could be headed our way by Tuesday, Wednesday, if not Thursday of next week.
Yeah, and I'll just let you go in just a second, but I just want to give you a quick plug. If people are not regular viewers of David's 11:30 a.m. stream, he does this most weekdays. He went into much deeper detail on all of this and the sort of problems that we've been having with getting the forecast dialed in at that 11:30 stream. If you want to catch up on it, you can go to our YouTube page and watch the replay whenever you feel like it. But make sure you tune in at 11:30 for all these deep dives that David can only give us, on these interesting weather outlooks that we've got here in the state of Florida.
Exactly. Definitely tune in. Check us out on social media as well. We're always putting out daily updates. Check out my social media as well, WXCenter_Nazario. Happy to strike up a conversation or answer any questions that you may have. So, yeah, feel free to reach out, connect, and then check us out at 11:30 Monday through Friday.
Yes, excellent. All right, David, I will let you go now. I know you got a busy day ahead of you. Thank you so much for your time and your expertise, though.
Of course, Thomas. Have a great rest of your Thursday, my friend.
You as well. All right, and with that, we are going to now get a check-in with investigator Lewis Bolden. As I had mentioned earlier, or if you're just joining us, Lewis is working on a story about the widow of a firefighter. He recently passed away from cancer, and now his widow is forced to fight to receive his death benefits. We're joined now by Lewis. Lewis, how are you doing today?
I'm good, Thomas. Always good to see you.
Always good to see you as well. So, Lewis, this is the widow of a Melbourne firefighter. He had had a decades-long career and then received that cancer diagnosis. And then, what is already a tragic event has turned into a much more difficult situation for this woman. Can you give us all the details, please?
For sure. We've been investigating this since before this law was even passed in 2019. So it's really interesting to see how cities are starting to interpret this law as more time passes. Back in November, we told you about Amy Wiles. She is the widow of a Melbourne firefighter. Same situation. He died of cancer. She was denied his benefits. Tonight, we have Teresa Geld. She is in the same situation. Also in the city of Melbourne, her husband died of cancer, and they are both being denied benefits that they are supposed to be guaranteed under the law. Let's take a look.
I don't even know 100% why I'm being denied these benefits, but it's obscene. It's not okay.
Teresa Geld's husband, Jay, served as a firefighter for nearly 40 years before being diagnosed with pancreatic and testicular cancer.
Devastating. It was just, it was a roller coaster all the time. You know what you're fighting, but you're also fighting for every day.
Jay's battle ended in December of 2023, but for Teresa, the fight continues. Despite 38 years of service, 30 with the city of Melbourne, the benefits she expected as Jay's widow were denied.
I was angry. I was extremely angry. I was angry for him.
In 2019, Governor Ron DeSantis signed into law Senate Bill 426 for firefighters. It provides a one-time cash payment of $25,000 after an initial diagnosis, and cancer treatment is covered. Geld says the city of Melbourne paid those benefits, but when Jay died, the city's insurance company denied the $75,000 death benefit.
But it made me angry that for 30 years he worked for the department that he gave everything to, and it's just being denied. It's, without any real good explanation.
We shared this story with State Fire Marshal Jimmy Petronas, and his office sent us this statement reading, "Throughout his time in office, CFO and State Fire Marshal Jimmy Petronas has fought diligently to give Florida's dedicated firefighters access to the cancer benefits they deserve. The department is aware of this situation and is monitoring it closely." Getting results, I'm Lewis Bolden, News 6. And of course, you guys, we are going to continue following this. This is becoming a big problem. I am currently working on a case out of Palm Bay and out of Polk County as well. So this is happening around the state. And the reason we are highlighting these stories is we are going to try to make change here, because we do not think that this is what the legislature intended when they created this law. So this latest interpretation of the law is really interesting. So we're going to continue to highlight these stories. You'll see more of them coming up in the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, that's interesting. You said that this is all coming down to a specific interpretation of the law, but after it was passed, this didn't happen right away. This is relatively a recent development.
In the last year, we have started to see this argument that they were denied the benefit because they were not firefighters when they passed away. But under that interpretation, you would have to be diagnosed with cancer and work until the day you die to get that benefit. And nobody is able to do that after going through cancer treatment, and we don't think that is what the legislature intended. So yeah, that interpretation of the law has just popped up in the last year or so. And technically, it's not the city of Melbourne who denying the claims, it's their insurance company denying the claims. But that does not absolve the city of any wrongdoing, because the statute doesn't say anything about insurance companies. What the statute says is upon death, the employer must pay this claim. So there's more to come for sure.
Yeah, so in addition to this, we'll call it hole in the law, that's being used in this particular interpretation, I'm imagining some finger pointing going on, saying like, "Oh, we didn't deny him. The insurance denied him." The insurance is saying, "Well, that's your responsibility based on the letter of the law." So it's probably very difficult for this widow to get answers if she's keeping the runaround.
Right. And, with the finger pointing, I say go back to basics, go back to the law. The law doesn't mention anything about insurance companies. It says upon death, the employer must pay this claim. So the city of Melbourne is on the hook here.
Yeah, and again, they had paid out the initial $25,000 as the law reads, and then paid for all of the cancer treatment. But now it's this hang up on this last payment that this widow is due, and it would seem, compared to 38 years of service, that $75,000 seems like almost a pittance by comparison.
Listen, exactly. 75, we're not talking about a huge sum of money when you're talking about someone's life, right? But what's happening is they're having to take this to court. So the case that I'm working on out of Polk County, that case was in court, and another case in Palm Bay as well. Those cases were in court for a year. Do you know how much attorney's fees are after a year of going to court? That's expensive. So when they do get the payout, probably half of that is going to attorney's fees, and that's not right. So there is some talk about rewriting the law or adding some text to the law so it's not so ambiguous. And so these loopholes, there won't be as many of these loopholes. So that's the goal.
Yes, and I know, as you said, you're working to bring more attention to this, to hopefully push through some of those changes. This was a law that New 6 has been involved with and helped to push through initially before Governor DeSantis even signed it into law. So I know we will be sticking with it, and you'll have more on that coming up tonight at 6, I believe, correct?
That's right. Coming up tonight at 6, we're going to hear from the attorney, and we're also going to hear from the union president, who weighed in on this issue as well.
Yes, I'm sure the union president has a lot to say on the matter, as this could affect him or any of his fellow union members as well. So I'm sure it is in their best interest to see this come to a conclusion.
Well, and that's one of the things that he said during the interview. He's thinking about himself and his colleagues. He wants to know that if something happens to him, that his family is going to be taken care of as well. So it's personal for them as well.
Absolutely. And, as we all know, first responders and firefighters especially are often exposed to carcinogens of all sorts, and there have been safety improvements over the years, but even the safest operation can only be so safe when you're barreling into a burning building, full of God knows what that's on fire. So, this is something that I know we've been invested in, and that we will remain invested in, trying to see this through to a conclusion that we'll see this woman and others receive their full benefits.
That's right. We stand with our first responders. So we're going to do what we can to get this law changed.
All right. Well, Lewis, thank you so much. We'll see you again tonight at 6, and you can read more about this right now on clickorlando.com/investigators. Thank you so much for your time, Lewis.
Yep. No problem. Take care.
All right. Okay, with that, we are going to take a quick break, and then when we come back, we are going to get a look at that launch of the New Glenn rocket from overnight. We're also going to get a check on the contest that our New 6 insiders can expect to find throughout this month, and also we're going to get a look at who Governor Ron DeSantis has named as a potential replacement for Marco Rubio, should he be appointed as President-elect Trump's Secretary of State. All that will be coming up in just about 2 minutes. Welcome back to Take 6. The time now is 12:50. I'm streaming executive producer Thomas Mates, filling in for Julie Broughton, who is out on assignment. She will join us again coming up on News 6 at 4. Today, we got some breaking news out of here in Central Florida. Governor Ron DeSantis made the announcement of who would potentially be replacing Marco Rubio, should he be appointed to Secretary of State. He has named State Attorney General Ashley Moody as the Senate designate should Marco Rubio be appointed to Secretary of State. Of course, he had his confirmation hearing earlier this week. He is among the more moderate nominations from President Trump for his cabinet, so it is expected that he will sail through the confirmation process and become the next Secretary of State. Of course, that remains to be seen for certain, but should that happen, Ashley Moody would take his place in Washington, D.C. We'll have more on that coming up on News 6 at 4. Overnight, we saw the inaugural maiden voyage of the New Glenn rocket from Blue Origin. That's Jeff Bezos' space exploration company. News 6 reporter Mark Lehman was there as it happened overnight. He gives us a look at that launch.
It was a breathtaking sight early this morning as one of the world's biggest rockets lifted off from the launch pad here behind me. Now, this mission was also a crucial one for Blue Origin, which is trying to make a big impact on the global launch industry. Cheers erupting from the sands of Cocoa Beach as Blue Origin's massive 30-story New Glenn rocket lifted off overnight.
It was beautiful to watch this big ball of fire launching and the sound.
The Salomon family is vacationing from Massachusetts and used the liftoff as a learning experience for their 2 young children.
We homeschool, so we're learning all the time, including at 2 in the morning.
And there was a lot riding on this mission. New Glenn is the first rocket developed by Blue Origin that aims to be capable of deploying satellites. The company meeting a key objective by reaching their target orbit.
Wanted to experience, 3 years of hard work, everybody on our team here.
Ashish Patel is part of a team that worked on New Glenn's second stage. He says he's in awe of seeing the rocket hit all of its key milestones and is excited for what all of this means for the future.
I think once we're able to, get to a sustainable rate, I think that's the next key milestone for us, right? And just making this routine.
Now, not everything went according to plan this morning. The first stage booster, which was designed to be reused, missed its landing on a drone ship in the Atlantic. Now, Blue Origin stresses that the most important thing is that its satellite reached orbit, which did happen. The next New Glenn launch is set to happen in the spring. In Cocoa Beach, Mark Lehman, getting results, News 6.
That was an impressive launch for certain, and of course it happened overnight. Maybe some of you weren't able to see it, but of course you can watch the full launch again on clickorlando.com and on the News 6 YouTube page. Later tonight, around 5 o'clock our time, the Starship, the SpaceX Starship, will be doing its 7th test flight. We'll be carrying that live as it's happening. You'll be able to see it on air on News 6, and of course clickorlando.com and the News 6 YouTube page. Be sure to watch out for that. We'll have to wait and see what happens with that. It was delayed earlier this week. We will wait and see if it gets pushed back again. But as of right now, the launch is set for 5 p.m. Eastern Time this evening. So if you are not a News 6 insider, you ought to be. We have a lot of great content that's exclusive only to our insiders, and of course contests. Some contests are getting ready to happen right now for our News 6 insiders. If you go to clickorlando.com/insider right now, you can sign up for free to be an insider, and our News 6 anchor and insider guide Crystal Moyer has a look at what you can get.
New year, new contest. It's one of the perks of being a News 6 insider. Our first contest will have your heart racing. We're giving away 2 tickets to the Rolex 24 at the Daytona International Speedway, taking place later on this month. It's a 24-hour endurance race with nonstop action, testing the limits for both the drivers and their speed machines. You can enter this contest at clickorlando.com/insider now through January 21st, and we're picking 4 winners for this one. We're taking you from the track to the green with our next contest. You can enter to win 2 tickets to the 4-day Hilton Grand Vacations Tournament of Champions. That's at Lake Nona Golf and Country Club. This tournament brings together professional golfers with celebrity guests for the 4-day event at the end of the month. To enter, just fill out this form at the bottom of the article on clickorlando.com/insider. You can enter as many times as you'd like for more chances to win. If you're not already an insider, it is free to sign up and only takes a moment. You could find out more about our contests, exclusive content, and other insider perks at clickorlando.com/insider. Did I mention it's all free? From the studio, Crystal Moyer, Getting Results, News 6.
All right, well, that will do it for us today here on Take 6. Thank you so much for joining us. Again, Julie Broughton will be back starting on News 6 at 4 with your weather. And, of course, we'll have all of your headlines from the day and much more on the Starship launch and the naming of Ashley Moody as the Senate candidate designate should Marco Rubio be confirmed as President Trump's Secretary of State. Thank you so much for joining us today. We hope that you have a pleasant day and join us again starting on News 6 at 4.